Hello again, my dear viewers. Today is March 24 and my current material is traditionally devoted to events at the front, what happened significant, important, and we will start from the city of Izium. As I said in the course of the previous issue, the day before yesterday a new, in fact, general battle began for the city of Izium and the surroundings of the city. Moreover, it was launched by the armed forces of Ukraine, that is, having concentrated significant mechanized reinforcements consisting of several battalions reinforced with tanks, they made a desperate attempt to release their comrades in southern Izium. It ended unsuccessfully. Russian troops defeated these mechanized columns, and already yesterday, throughout the day, they began to push them further and further south, and at this very time the southern part of Izium, the so-called Mount Kremenets, which towers over this entire region. In fact, the area is visible from it for tens of kilometers around, and holding this mountain here allowed the armed forces of Ukraine to operate very effectively in this area. First of all, from hidden artillery positions, and today a message came that yesterday this mountain Kremenets, in fact, where the remnants of the garrison of the armed forces of Ukraine were hiding, was taken by Russian troops, after which the entire line of Ukrainian defense in this area literally fell down because the artillery fire was no longer corrected and the troops that went on the counterattack were defeated. That is, after the capture of this mountain Kremenets and, accordingly, the destruction of the group that went to its deblocade, the situation here will change very quickly. I already expect in the next day or two a swift offensive to the south to cut off the Slavic Kramatorsk group from the rest of Ukraine, and my respected viewers report that from the settlements of Pervomaiskoye and Lozovaya to strengthen positions in the area, so I guess Borvinkovo, that's where then on this line, new reserves came forward. And here, the next day, battles are supposed to begin, the main goal of which will be to reach the flank and rear of the Slavic Kramatorsk grouping of the armed forces of Ukraine, but for this, it will be necessary to bring down some barriers and, first of all, most likely, we will still have to wage a rather serious battle for the settlement of Barvinkovo, which has already been turned into a rather serious fortified area of the armed forces of Ukraine. Of course, there will be attempts to hold certain lines, but the outcome of the battle was a foregone conclusion yesterday when the Russian armed forces took control of Kremenets mountain in the southern city of Izium. In fact, for last night and for this morning, this is the main news. The next news, which also came this morning, is the sinking of one of the Russian large landing ships in the water area of the port of the city of Berdyansk. Russian air defense system shot down another point U over Berdyansk, but its remnants fell on ships unloading in port. 3 Russian landing ships were stationed there at the same time, and, let me remind you, it is Berdyansk that today is one of the main rear bases of the Russian group, which is advancing along the Zaporozhye-Donetsk line. And a fire started on one of the large landing ships, and so that there would be no detonation of ammunition, it was decided to flood the ship right at the quay wall. The remaining 2 landing ships were damaged, went to sea, and for some time the port of Berdyansk ceased to be the main logistics base. In fact, this is quite a big success for the armed forces of Ukraine, perhaps the biggest success in terms of the use of Tochka-U tactical missiles. Further, taking this opportunity, I want to immediately dispel another myth created by the propaganda of Kiev, this is, allegedly, the encirclement of Russian troops in the area of the settlements of Irpin, Buchi, Gostomel. Naturally, there is no environment and was not even planned, but this myth began inflate against the backdrop of the ongoing fighting in the area. Intensive artillery the skirmish allowed officially Kiev propaganda to invent another myth about the destruction of Russian troops in this region. By the way, over the past 10 days, in my opinion, this fake is already more modest because the previous 2 times the armed forces of Ukraine have allegedly pushed back Russian troops to the very Belarusian border. Here it is already a little more modest, simply, allegedly, they took and surrounded the Russian troops in the area of U-200B U-200T settlements of Irpin, Buchi, Gostomel. Well, the offensive actions of the armed forces of the now Donetsk People's Republic in the Gorlovka-Avdiivsk direction also continue. Here, the advance per day also amounted to approximately several kilometers. And gradually the settlement of Avdiivka is cut off from the rest of the Donetsk group from the northeast and north. I also expect new data today regarding the advance of troops DNR in this direction. I also observe the actions of the troops near the settlement of Kurakovo, where the offensive operation of the now Russian armed forces is also continuing. That's all for now on this topic. Goodbye.